have a panel discussion now on the topic of collaboration between industry and academia. That's a topic that's really, really important. In my opinion, the Technion excels at collaboration with industry, but it's something that we're always searching for new and better ways to do this. We have the wonderful opportunity to have as the chair of this panel session former president, Professor Peretz Levi, and I'll turn him over to lead the stage. Thank you, Peretz, for doing this.
Thank you, Wayne, and welcome to the panel Exchange for Change on the relationship between industry and research universities. Apparently, the relationship between academia and industry should be straightforward. Universities provide the workforce necessary to run the industry and furnish innovative ideas to start new enterprises. This is a critical role for both of them. It secures additional resources for higher education, it promotes innovation and technology transfer for the benefits of industries, and ensuring that university graduates have the skills and knowledge required to effectively contribute to the workforce. This is particularly true, as you heard from the President, for academic institutes like the Technion that focus on science and engineering. However, this apparent simplistic relationship doesn't work so smoothly because of inherent differences between research universities and industry. While research in universities desire to contribute to the theory, to understand the nature and the laws that govern nature, without any consideration for timescale, for profitability, industry is restrained by profitability. In contrast to the academia, where making the results research public as fast as possible, and you know the cliche, publish or perish for academic faculty, industrial research is not made publicly available until it fulfills its business or other interests. Driven in different directions, the collaboration between industry and universities has been limited. It is hard to develop partnerships between academia and industry until issues such as research relevance, training commitment, problem resolution in the real world, communication gap, contractual and privacy concerns, and ownership of intellectual property are explicitly addressed. I should add that these relationships are further complicated by the fact that extensive research, both applied and basic, is conducted nowadays by industrial companies with huge financial investments that are only the envy of academic institutes. According to the OECD, the industry conducts around 2/3 of the research and development in science and technology today. The remaining 20% is carried out by universities and 10% are done by governments. Furthermore, universities that started as teaching institutes and only then added research to their mission has become in the 20th century entrepreneurial, particularly since the introduction of the Bayh-Dole Act of 1980 in the USA. This allowed universities to claim ownership of the intellectual property developed in the university and funded by the government and retain the royalties in the university. In many universities, entrepreneurship activity is an overlay on the teaching and research university missions, and you heard when the President gave his speech how many companies the Technion has started in recent years. We have today an outstanding panel to discuss the key issues that breach the industry-academic relationship and how to improve it in order to build effective collaboration that will benefit both. Let me start by introducing the panelists and invite them to the stage. Dr. Judith Hocherman-Frommer is the Executive Vice President for Research and Development in Rafael. I'm sure that Each one of you knows that Rafael is the defense system organization that developed and built the Iron Dome, the groundbreaking air defense system, among other things. They developed it in a record time of 2.5 years. Dr. Ocherman holds a Bachelor of Science, a Master of Science, and a PhD, all from electrical engineering in the Technion. And she conducted a postdoctoral research at Princeton University. Since joining Rafael, Judith, more than 20 years ago, Judith has held several senior engineering and R&D positions, and for the last year, she has been the Executive Vice President for Research and Development at the corporate management level. Thank you, Judith, for joining us. Dr. Avital Shrift is a Vice President in the Israeli aerospace industry, in short, IAI. She received a bachelor and master in electrical engineering from the Technion and a PhD in the Department of Computer Science at Weizmann. Nobody is perfect. But she said, I did my PhD for the soul because I love the subject. Dr. Shrift is the director of the missile systems of Israel's Mabat missile factory, which belongs to the Israel aerospace industry. She is responsible for over 300 employees, leading a large variety of research, development, experimental, and missile manufacturing projects to use in sea, surface, and air. Avital, who is married with children, received the Israel Defense Award in 2003 for her job on the Green Pine, a project involving missile detection homing radar. Thank you for joining us, Avital. Dr. Aya Sofer is the Vice President for AI Technologies and the Director of IBM Research Lab in Israel. Before joining IBM, she worked as a research associate at NASA Goddard Space Flight Center, and then at the Technion as a Lady Davis Fellow. You heard about the Lady Davis program by the President, supported by Harry Bloomfield. In IBM, Dr. Sofer has led several strategic initiatives in the big data and AI space, including the original Watson system and more recently, Project Debater, which is the first AI system that can debate humans on complex issues. Currently, in a role as Vice President for AI Technologies, Dr. Sofer focuses on natural language understanding, conversational systems, and their application in customer care and other enterprises applications. Thank you, Aya, for joining us. Mr. Eric Gertler, our guest from New York, served in several New York City and New York State government administrations, including most recently as the Commissioner of the Empire State Development, the state's principal economic development agency. He is a trustee of the Zuckerman Institute and the Zuckerman Family Foundation and a board member of the Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, Tel Aviv University, Technion, and Weizmann. Currently, he is the executive chairman and CEO of the magazine US News and World Report. Thank you, Eric, for joining us. And last but not least, Professor Kobe Robinstein, who is the Executive Vice President for Research at the Technion since 2019. And as you heard, Kobe is completing his term in coming September. He's also a professor of applied mathematics and serves as the CEO of the Technion R&D Foundation. He oversees the entire research activity at the Technion, basic research, applied research, contracts with industry, and technology transfer. He holds a Bachelor of Science from Tel Aviv University, Master of Science from the Technion, and a PhD degree from New York University, all in mathematics. Kobe is also an entrepreneur. He is a co-founder of the startup company InRay that developed software for the optometry market. Kobe, who served as the Dean of the Technion Department of Mathematics and as the President of the Israeli Mathematical Union, received several awards for excellence, including the prestigious Landau Prize in Exact Sciences. Thank you, Kobe.
What I'd like to do is
to talk about the relationship between industry and academia in general and the Technion in particular. And I'd like to start by asking you, what are the expectations? Why industry should collaborate with academic institute or with research universities? And let's start with our guest from industry. Please, Judith.
I divide it into 3 issues. The first is teaching by industry experts and student employment and hiring of students, which is the first layer. The second one is this notion of lifelong learning, the ability to expose our employees to research and advanced studies. And the third, and for me it's foremost, the most influential is research collaboration, where our people, together with the researchers from the academia, are taking the advantages of industry's resources and infrastructures, and moreover, we combine the academic advances with real-life problems.
Thank you. Avital.
Thank you for the question. First of all, I must add to my resume that for the last 8 months, I've been a part of IAI management with the new title is Vice President for Core Technologies, and actually one of my biggest assignment is encouraging the relationship between IAI and the academia in Israel and abroad. And the reason we want to encourage those relationships is not only to be able to recruit more employees, but mainly to encourage the R&D in those areas that are considered to be transformational. Those technologies that are only emerging at a very low readiness levels. There is a scale, I'm talking about technologies such as quantum technology, AI in the bare layers of its research. Those technologies cannot yet be translated into projects, but we want to be part of the research in order to have the transformation between pure research and a working product be done as early as possible and as effectively as possible. And this is the reason why we want to have our engineers, including many PhDs, be part of the generic research and take it back to us and convert it into a project.
I just read that you signed an agreement with a university in Morocco, in Rabat,
yes,
right?
Yes, this we did. The reason to do so is not purely academic, although I was surprised to find some very nice areas in which they are doing good research, but it's only also to encourage the marketing and the creation of projects in many countries, such as Morocco and other countries.
Thank you. Aya?
Yes, so thank you. I would say that the 2 answers predominantly cover the main, but I will look at it a little bit differently. I would say academia, by nature, is the place where we have a big supply of researchers, be it professors and students and so on. So from my perspective, the question is then how do we manage to find a win-win? At the end of the day, as you said, a lot of research today happens in industry, and in particular we are in ourselves a research organization sitting in industry, so we already bridge. So the question is, how can you bridge between the real world and what are the needs of the real world, what are some of the problems of the real world, and this amazing place where people come in order to do research. So it's really a question of how can we align what the universities and all these wonderful people who are studying and developing and the needs of the industry to create good research together.
I'm curious, in the university we are very proud that research, basic research, is driven by curiosity. I mean, a researcher can wake up in the morning and decide I'm going to take this path and not this one. Nobody tell him what to do. Is it possible in the research lab in IBM to do curiosity-driven research?
Absolutely. We have a portfolio, like every other place, I would say, and part of our portfolio is what we call exploratory research. And I would say Project Debater, which we did, was a perfect example of it. We didn't do it because we wanted a machine that can debate, even though some people may claim they want one of those for their personal life, but really out of curiosity and how far can you take technology. Having said that, corporate funds us to eventually also impact the top line, bottom line of IBM, and you need to find that balance.
Thank you. Eric, from your experience in the committee that was responsible for economic development, what do you see the importance, what is the importance from your point of view of such a link between academia and industry in the US, of course, scenario?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me here this morning. Good morning, or as we say in New York, Boker Tov. I feel like I'm on, in one of those children's cartoons. Which one does not look like the other? Of course, the questions that you raise in terms of alignment and expectations are always at the forefront when you're looking at these relationships between academia and industry. But what I want to do is start off, and we can get into deeper detail on that and the obstacles and the benefits. But one important way that we look at the relationship between industry and university is as universities as a catalyst for economic development, for job growth. Ultimately, those job growth derives from industry. But I'm going to tell a very quick story because it involves Technion and Peretz Levi. And that is, we already put up the slide about Cornell Technion. But what's interesting about the development of the Technion campus in New York was that in New York City, if you go back to 2008 and 2009, when we had the economic crisis, which very much impacted New York because it related to finance jobs. And in finance jobs, those are high-paying jobs that influence the economic base in New York City. And Mayor Bloomberg, and I had the privilege of working for Mayor Bloomberg, we had to think about a way to be able to revive the economy, not just for the present, but for the future. And my department did an initiative and talked to 300 leading thinkers, business people, academics in New York City to come up with the very best ideas about how to revive the economy. And at the top of that list was the idea of creating an applied sciences campus. And if you think about it in the United States, and you go to Silicon Valley, all of those companies, these innovative companies, came out because of the relationship between Stanford and the surrounding community. And we can talk about how that was done, but in New York City, we didn't have that type of relationship. And so that idea was born. Peretz loves to tell the story about getting a letter about bidding on it. But the idea was that if you had an applied science campus that would bring about and spin out companies, you would create jobs, and at the time, the goal was 10,000 jobs and $30 billion of economic development to New York City. So if you think about it, that's a huge number. The GDP of Israel is $450 billion. We're at that one initiative, we're thinking about $30 billion. So that's an example here, that goes to the heart of Technion and academic and industry relations about the power that these relationships can have. And we can talk about the specifics of it.
Thank you very much, Eric. Kobe, I'll ask you a different question. Why it is important for universities to align with industry?
Well, I speak for the Technion. I think one reason is selfish. we're in a danger that a professor will start her position at Technion, do wonderful fundamental research, but slowly get detached from reality. By performing sponsored research with an industry, we can ensure that professors always know what happens outside, and moreover, as students know what happens outside when they graduate. Second reason is selfish. Well, altruistic. First one, selfish. Altruistic. Altruistic means one of the Technion missions is to enhance the economy and industry. That's our way to do it.
The problem, we don't have Bloombergs here.
Well, third reason is financial. We use money from sponsored research to support students, to buy and to maintain infrastructure. And there is the fourth reason. Let's not be arrogant here at the Technion. There is a wonderful research, wonderful abilities at industry, and we can learn from them as well.
Thank you. So we spoke about the importance, and you all agree it is important. But as I mentioned in my opening remarks, it's a bumpy road. And there are, I would say, I use the word obstacles, but Judith corrected me and she said there are challenges. And thank you for the correction. I think there are challenges. And the question now, what are the challenges that face both industry and universities when they try to align? And what are the solutions to solve these or to meet these challenges? Judith, please.
Okay. The challenges actually start with the timeline. The project needs to give a specific merit at a specific time, and of course, for a researcher at the academia, sometimes it doesn't, time is not an issue. Another rather important thing that you have mentioned in your previous words is the issue of intellectual property. Of course, this is a super important issue because the industry has to have the ability to use the results of the research. And another issue is the really urge of the academic researcher to publish. And of course, the industry really has the obstacles of confidentiality and stuff like that. So these are actually the obstacles or challenges. And I think that there is a very good way to mitigate those challenges or to meet them. Actually, by trying to find the sweet spot, the common sweet spot between all the needs, because actually we can build case by case, try to find the right suit for every case. For example, in areas where we are really at the origin, or this is a really fundamental research, such as in quantum, or in some cases, other things like AI. I refine myself not to speak about AI because AI is here. So,
we will touch AI, believe me.
Okay. So there are several issues. You have to select the right subject.
Can you give me an example regarding, it is unbelievable that the Iron Dome was conceived and built in 2.5 years. Can you give me another example of a project that has such a short time period?
I just want to say that this timeline of 2.5 years is sitting on top of a giant research done like decades. So actually, it sits on a lot of, researches that were done during the years. So actually, the 2.5 years, it's just a matter of when you started to
together?
to put, no, yeah, you just declared on this is the starting point because there was a lot of effort done beforehand. So if you ask about things that are rapidly happening, actually we are trying to be more and more effective in what we are doing, and actually being confined to profitability and growth actually helps us to this matter, because we are more focused and we are more efficient. So actually everything is done much quicker nowadays.
Thank you. Avital.
I won't repeat the IP and publications issue, because this is a challenge known to all of us. And again, as Judith says, the main way to get by it is to work it case by case. And Professor Rubinstein knows that for the last 18 months we have been working many cases of doing research together, and we are able to solve those issues. I want to raise another aspect of industry academia collaboration, and that goes to systems engineering. And the people who know me in the crowd knew that at a certain point I'm going to raise it, so better early than later. And what I find lacking in the academia, and the main capabilities that we as industry are bringing into the table, are the systems engineering capabilities and methodologies. Those are the things that enable us to take a technology and convert it into a project in 2.5 years. And I think that when doing a collaborative research, this is the main capability that we are bringing. We are taking the professors and trying to introduce a timeline, trying to introduce some surveys and some means by which we shall integrate their output into our products. And the main challenge for the academia, I think, is to have the students more acquainted with those technologies. This will allow the students and the researchers to be more effective in their research. A well-structured research does not mean that it is less basic or less transformational. And those capabilities being sponsored by the academia and not only by the industry will enable us both to be more, to have better achievements at the end of the day.
Thank you. Aya, we have two unique industries which are different than IBM Research Lab, which are constrained by other issues rather than profitability and, let's say, the issues are more confidentiality. What do you see from your side, your point of view, the obstacles and how to overcome them?
So first of all, I would say that the good news is, from my experience, people want to collaborate. So at the bottom, of it, when you come and you talk to faculty, and definitely when you come to students, they're very eager. They're very eager to work with people, again, specifically in AI, who maybe have more data, may have more infrastructure, so, and experience, and the problems. And sometimes it's like, what should I research? So I would say that's the good news, that it starts with people wanting to collaborate, as long as we let them do that. The challenges I see, in addition to IP, which again, I don't think we want to even start going there, confidentiality, publications and so on is not an issue for us, because we actually aspire to that. That is usually our goal for joint research, is a joint publication, so at least we don't have that issue. We still have IP issues. The friction I sometimes see is this friction of freedom of action. In essence, faculty, and mainly comes, I think, from them, want the total freedom of, this is what I want to study, this is what I want to research, and when you come in from the outside, then you say, but let's do a project on this specific topic. then it becomes a little harder. It's like, no, but I need somebody who wants to do that. Whereas, you know,
So when you come to the Technion and ask for a project, you not always find the right person because...
We may not find, and if we say, similar I think to the comment here, we say, okay, we want a commitment, okay, for 1 year, not for 10 years, but for 1 year, this is the project, this is the goal, this is our end result. It's research, we may find it, we may not find it, but at least we want to agree in advance that this is what we will do together for the next year or so. You need to find the people who are willing and want to work. So I'm not saying, but I can tell you we work with every single university in the US, with Stanford, with Berkeley, with Carnegie Mellon, with Columbia, with you name it, and in Canada. And I find there people are more used to this way of working. Okay, academia, you know, industry comes, we create a project, this is what the project needs to do. These are the milestones, this is what you expect you to do. And here I think people are more free spirits and like everybody knows, you know, better than someone else what the right answer is, and therefore I think we find more challenges. On the other hand, that's why we come to Israel, is because we want these free spirits. So
this is our strength and our weakness.
Exactly.
We ask too many questions.
Exactly.
Eric, from your point of view.
So just to follow up on what you're saying, and I'll also add that IBM has a huge relationship with SUNY Poly in upstate New York, and as we talked before, on an IA hardware center, less so on the software side. And so we've got a real history. My old agency that I ran in New York oversaw many of the academic industry relationships. Government played a role in that. And I think, Peretz, as you said at the beginning, you know, it's a question of the alignment and the expectations. And certainly you can see the tension between a university that says we want to think about discovery and learning versus the idea of, at a company, profitability and commercialization and product development. But at this point, and all the panelists have talked about the first layer of challenges, where we see the next layer is if you go down one level. So let me give you an example. It's easy to see the difference between basic and applied research. And you know, there's some tension in terms of how that works out. The problem at some of the universities is that they've then set up the universities to do basic research versus the capabilities of applied research. Or at a university that wants to have a relationship and says, yes, we've developed a culture of working with industry, but really, if it's based on just profit making, then it doesn't work. It's really got to be ingrained in the university about how to work with industry, because it goes through all the various parts. So an example may be in an incubator space. If a university really wants to develop these companies and spin out companies, do they have the incubator spaces monopolized by 1 or 2 large companies? Or are they allowing all these different types of companies to be in the incubator space? It also goes to accountability. Who's accountable for making sure that happens? So the way we structured it in New York State is we had 2 different types of programs. We had what were called Centers for Advanced Technology and Centers of Excellence. Both were designed to work with universities. Both were with industry. Both were specialized areas in food, mechanical engineering, 30 different areas. The difference was, in some cases, the money came from government and needed to be matched by private sectors. Some came from government and then needed to be matched with university money. So then it was a question, who was accountable, who was pushing on that? But in many cases, the real obstacles that we discovered was not at the top layer, but at the next layer. How are the labs set up? What was being taught? What were the students allowed to do? That's where we saw a lot of the challenges to really develop very robust and fruitful academic industry relations.
Thank you, Eric. Kobi, you are summarizing now 4 years of experience. And I say that you accumulated very large number of contracts with industry and negotiations with industry, as each one of our guests can witness. What is your opinion about the challenges of having these links between academia, particularly the Technion, and industry after 4 years of experience?
Well, you mentioned the IP. Now, every sponsored research agreement is an agreement, it's a contract. And contracts are drafted by lawyers. And lawyers like to, they tend to spar, to fight. Sometimes they can argue about one word for weeks and months. So this is the first challenge. And I think we all...
So removing lawyers is the answer?
Well, they're paid to do so. They have to...
Neely, so, I hope you're not in the audience.
No. We have wonderful lawyers, and everybody has wonderful lawyers. Their job is to argue. Their job is to spar. But our job is to say, okay, enough is enough. And what we discovered in this panel is that a talk of half an hour between each of us can overcome all disputes by lawyers. So this was the challenge. This is how we overcame the challenge. Now, the second challenge, I explain it metaphorically. Now, when you in the boot camp in the army, you learn how to shoot. So the door is there's a circle. You're supposed to shoot inside the circle. Outside or near the circle is a bad shot, right? But in academia, we work in the opposite way. As you know very well, we first shoot. Then we draw the circle around where we hit, and we said, great hit. So in academia, we're not used... In academia, we're not used to work in the same spirit, the mode of thinking as industry. And this is one obstacle we have to teach our faculty members. You're doing wonderful research, wonderful work, but when a project comes from industry, there's a specific goal that you must meet. And to overcome this challenge, we have in the Research Authority, we have a team of experts that try to fit to any project the right person in the Technion to work on this project. But there is a third challenge that we did not overcome yet. We now know, I know, after 4 years in this position, I know how to work with them. I know how to work with the high-tech industry, also with Corinne, who was here before. But we so far not successful in establishing good contact with what I call mid-tech companies. Not necessarily high-tech. Companies where technology and basic research can help them improve dramatically. We started such a project 2 years ago, supported by the Russell Berry Foundation. It halted for a while for lack of money. Now we signed a contract with the Ministry of Economy to restart it, trying to establish contract with what we call mid-tech companies. It's very challenging because they often don't know what you can give them, what you can contribute to them. And I very much hope that my successor will be able to take it from here and bring also these companies to the Technion.
So the mid-level companies, these are the challenge. And finding faculty members who shoot first or shoot second after they made the circle. There is one question that I think is very important for the academia, and this is, do we prepare in the right way the engineers that join either Rafael or the Israeli aircraft industry or IBM or scientists? Do we give them the proper education? And please try to be candid about it.
First of all, I think that this is a huge task because technology changes in such a rapid pace. So everything that relates to tools and ways of doing things might not be adequate. I think that the point is that the academia should teach basic research, basic physics. I mean, physics is the beginning of all, even though I was studying all my studies with electrical engineering. But I think that the academia should do the basics by teaching. And industry, and us, for example, we are doing that, can send her experts to teach those things that needed.
Do you do it?
Yeah, we do it.
You do it.
We have many researchers and experts that are coming to teach at the Technion. I'll give one example. Dr. Hector Rothstein, he's a very talented researcher at the navigation area, and he has more than 44 refereed papers, so he's very well fit to teach at the aeronautics department.
Do you think that universities should be also involved in lifelong learning, say after 10 years of graduation, to try to catch up with new technologies, new knowledge, etc.?
There are many programs now that are addressing this problem of lifelong learning. We also at Rafael has our own internal university and internal campus, which is an excellent campus. And we use every possible mean, both sides, both teaching and invite others to use what we can suggest, and sending our people to the academia. And I would like to state another thing that is really unique. We formed a special, very prestigious research track within the company. We took like 80 to 90 people, the best researchers, and gave them 20% of their time to do their own research.
Curiosity-driven.
Yeah, curiosity-driven. Of course, we try to direct this is the most important things and stuff like that, but actually it has a lot of freedom, and our people are coming to the academia, and this also alleviates one of the obstacles of wanting to publish, because they share the same desire.
Thank you. Avital.
Now, talking about after Judith, so I will not repeat whatever Judith have said, because I think in that sense we are very similar. I'm going to say again system engineering, and this time in it. What we have done within IAI is we have first of all created a program together with the Technion to give an ME degree in system engineering, but it is a closed program only for IAI employees. Again, we are meeting all the academic requirements, and I have Professor Aviv Rosen working with me very closely, but on top of that, we are introducing to the same program some of the areas that are more important to us, and making it in the required academic level so that it won't compromise the degree and all the academic
This was supported by Bernie Gordon from Boston.
But also the next project that I have in mind is introducing system engineering to the students at the bachelor's degree. This is the main capability that I think is lacking nowadays when you look at students, because you teach them all the basics, and that's very important, but you need also to teach them some structured way of how to think. This is something where AI will never be able to replace us.
We'll come to it in a moment.
So,
not so fast.
I'm taking the example of Professor Adam Schwartz that told me that you can now find software that are writing themselves, but the ability to really design systems and system of systems still remains a human capability. And this is something that should be introduced as part of the basic training and not wait till the more advanced degrees.
I think that, again, everybody is talking about AI, and there's no doubt that AI will be very important for higher education. How do you see the future of AI, let's say 10 years from now? I'm sure we can start a panel on AI, but
yes.
So try to be brief, but this is something that has become almost a buzzword, and predictions for the future are frightening.
Yeah. So I'm not going to attempt in, here on the panel to get into this debate of whether we are about to be taken over by AI or not. My personal opinion is just, you know, when you look at history, we have seen that at the end of the day, humanity is strong. So I believe we will find the right balance in terms of everybody understands there's a lot of potential. This AI can do many, many, many good things, including in industries such as these, where you can say, okay, you can at the same time make damage, but also do very good. Iron Dome is an amazing example, because without it, I have no idea like what would happen, right? So, so having said that, I do believe there's so many good things to do, and history has shown that until now, as humanity, we have generally found a way to curtail technology and you know, and make more, find a way to do more good than bad. So I'm an optimistic person, and I will be optimistic and only look at, I think, the amazing potential of AI, and also in education. At the end of the day, what we are seeing and what we will continue to see is that AI can more and more do things that are rudimentary, are simple, but simple just gets, you know, more and more sophisticated, which should leave all of us more time to discuss what it is that we want our systems to do design and so on, and to not work so hard maybe on creating the designs themselves, the charts, the code, and so on. So I'm generally an optimistic person, and I believe we will see more and more, but I think it's similar to what we saw with internet. So when I was a graduate student, it was when internet started, Google started, and no one really understood what it would do and do we really need it. And eventually, yes, we can all say social networks and all the damage, but on the other hand, clearly the world has totally, you know, completely
So you
changed.
don't think we're going to meet Dr. Watson, our next physician appointment?
As the end, I don't think so, right? I think there's always going to be that human, but can humans be assisted by AI that is able to read more, to bring more information, to, you know, to help write the doc? Maybe finally they can dictate and it will actually work. And, you know, doctors can spend more time talking to the patients rather than trying to type. So I think there's, you know, a lot of good things that can come out of it. And at the end of the day, we want to really see what, you know, the true human capability is. When I go see a doctor, it's not necessarily for the diagnosis. It's also to help me understand what it means and make decisions. So I don't see us having a computer do that for us, but definitely can help significantly.
Eric, we just celebrated 10 years to the JTCI and Cornell Tech, which is, as you said, this was a Bloomberg idea and worldwide competition. Do you think it is successful based on the experience of the last 10 years?
So just before I answer that question, I just wanted to come back to on the AI and the skill building, because, and I just want to look at it from the perspective of industry and the economy. And if you look at different studies, there was a study that was done by the World Economic Forum that you would see over a 3-4 year period tens of millions of jobs being lost because of AI. But at the same time, you would see double that being created because there's all these new fields that are going to be created and going to be needed. And we have no idea, I mean, you might, but there's all these new ideas that and new areas that we're going to need people. I mean, you know, just one example, when I was in government, I remember going to some of the hospital administrators and saying, this was 10, 12 years ago, what is your greatest need? And what they said to me were not nurses, not doctors, but data analysts. So already back then, there was a sense of how the world was changing. From an industry perspective, you look at it and you look at the skills imbalance, really deficiency, because and you look at sort of the general economy, you've got X number of unemployed people, but then there's X plus whatever the number is of jobs that are needed. These are new jobs where people don't have the skills. And so what industry has been doing is industry has then been partnering with universities to be able to have the skills necessary to meet that skills gap. So, and there's lots of great examples. Infosys, and you all know Infosys, has created programs, and many companies have done this, where they're creating 12 to 14 lifelong skill building programs. So these are 12 to 14 week programs. Infosys has a program in cybersecurity with Purdue University. They've got one on data analysis with University of North Carolina. But basically, for 12 to 14 weeks, they send their executives
This is not for an academic degree, right?
No, it's for certificates.
Just for certificates.
Certificates for learning. So there's all sorts of things. So it's very interesting what's going on where both industry and academic needs each other. So I think to answer your question, I think there's been some good successes. There's been a number of spin-out companies. I don't think yet that the university has figured out how to fully integrate itself with the sort of larger New York ecosystem. But I think it goes back to the story when Richard Nixon was with Mao Zedong, and they wanted to talk about history, and Richard Nixon turned to Mao Zedong, and obviously the Chinese think about history in centuries. We look at history in a number of years, and he said to Mao Zedong, "What do you think about the French Revolution?" And Mao Zedong said, "It's too early to tell." So I think in the same way, there's lots that's going to happen, and I think it's an extraordinary place with great talent. And
this is what we call in Hebrew a politically correct answer. Before we turn the microphone to the audience to ask questions, we didn't touch the issue of technology transfer. Again, looking back at 4 years of experience of transforming basic science into applied science by technology transfer, what is your take-home message from the ability of academia to spin off companies, to energize economy by company? You said 1 in 30 startup companies nowadays comes from the Technion, which is quite incredible.
Well, when I took office, I asked myself, why do most universities don't profit from tech transfer? The Technion does, but in an unusual way. Once every 10 years, there is a big winning hope. And so there are several answers to it. One, small deal flow. And second, almost all tech transfer to universities are in medicine, while there are many other sectors. So the goals that we set to ourselves, my team, Rona is heading our tech transfer office. The goals were first to increase considerably the deal flow, and second to diversify the application, not only in medicine, also software, chip design, food, energy. Increase the deal flow. And the way to do it is by being flexible. You need different models for different sectors, and that's how we were able to, as Uri showed this morning, to triple the deal flow in just 2 years. And to diversify it. Now we have companies, spin-off companies in many sectors, food, several engineering companies, several energy companies, 3 companies in cultivated meat, software, etc. I think the key point is flexibility. Flexibility is the key point to do it. And I want to add one more thing about the AI issue. Talked about the danger in AI. Well, AI is benefits and there is a danger in AI. But I think that a bigger threat on there is not AI, but HS, human stupidity. This is the biggest danger.
Can I just add one point to what?
Sure.
Very quickly. So I think you're 100% right. You can have the best negotiated tech transfer agreement, you can have all the license provisions, where the revenue is going to flow. But if you don't make it easy for the companies, it'll never work out. There's a concept now in the United States that's now not the spin out, but the sneak out. And what's happening is companies are spinning out technology and forming a lot of the technology. They'll do research in universities, but then they'll have the IP outside, not because they don't want to work with the universities, but because they've made it too complicated. And you've got to make it so that on all levels it's a win-win situation.
Thank you, Eric. Now I turn to the audience. Any questions to the panelists? Yes, Dan Wilensky, please. Wait for the microphone, please.
Once the opportunity is identified, I think the biggest challenge.
Speak into it.
The biggest challenge is to open the microphone.
The biggest challenge, in my opinion, is that once the opportunity is identified, is to have two things. One, simplicity and time. I think the contract between the university and industry should be reduced to one page and take the lawyers out of the picture. This is the biggest challenge.
Would you like to comment? The Executive Vice President for Research agree with you. Any more questions, please? Yes. Joel.
Hello, good morning everyone, and thank you for a fascinating panel. Of course, on the AI side in terms of AI, what else? But I wanted to come back, in my role here in the Board of Governors at, part of the Student Affairs Committee about students. So, I'm super impressed what, Kobe and the administration is doing for faculty. You help, Amazon Scholar personally, alleviate all the challenges, Kobe, for faculty who want to do part-time, etc. But what about undergrad students? What I'm seeing these days, and I don't know if we have the TSA reps here, I'm seeing students basically trying to get more experience during their studies and trying to do internships. But at the same time, this is kind of a challenge, a friction with them getting, better grades. Should they prioritize work to get experience, to be more prepared for the future? Should they prepare for their grades? Because industry, of course, wants the high GPA. And so I'm turning to our industry leaders here. Have you thought of creating programs for undergrad or master and PhD? We cannot because of IP, but at least undergrad, where we start exposing them to industry without having them to choose between this and that. And I'm especially thinking about students who don't have, not the excellent students, not the dean list or president list, but the average ones, which are the mass of our students. And they're worried these days. There are fewer and fewer internships. So guys, ladies? By the way, kudos on having a woman panel. Well done, Peretz. Women in tech. We have gentlemen, but these are women in tech, so kudos. So ladies, do you have any solution for that? How can we get these kids involved and not neglect their studies and prepare them for the future?
Joel, let me clarify. You are asking for a structured internship period during their studies,
correct,
either in Rafael or Israeli
correct,
Aerospace Industry or IBM, where they spend
not too long and not being totally, because today they have they have to choose, if they do a wonderful internship at Intel, it's for Intel. And then it's totally schizophrenic. Then they come back, they have exams. And some companies are super supportive, but not all of them, not the startups. I heard of a startup recently who asked students to be 3 days at work. Come on, how can I have, good grades with that?
Thank you. Judith?
Actually, we are getting many students to work with us, and I think that Rafael is a very good home for those students who want to see system-level things and combine it with excellence in studies. I think that we are very open to this kind of thing. And of course, we are doing also the other side as well, because we have in our own labs, people are doing their doctorates on our facilities, for example, for the quantum, and there are those both ways.
Avital?
So our problem is much more difficult because most of the infrastructure of IAI is in the center of Israel and not near Haifa, but what we do are two things. First of all, we do have our own people here in the Technion being associated researchers and offering mentoring and guidance to students during their projects as they are done as part of their graduate training. This is a possibility. We are also very happy to employ students. It's much more difficult because of the distance. But what we are trying to do right now, and in fact that was the last thing that Kobe and myself have been discussing, we are trying to create cloud labs that will join the Technion with IAI, allow both the IAI employees and the Technion students and researchers access to the same database, simulation infrastructure, and all the facilities that will enable both students to do projects in IAI-related topics, and also further on for the researchers to conduct the research. This is our way of overcoming the distance.
Thank you. Aya?
Yeah, so again, as a large organization, and Yoel knows this, we're very flexible in terms, so we will definitely always want the students to succeed in their studies and give them the flexibility. But I think, like Yoel says, the challenge is not so much on our side. It's really a question of how can students maybe get credit, maybe, you know, some program where the student is able to do this part, some sort of an internship, get credits for it. We do industry projects, and I think that's one way. Some programs require them to do an industry project, and then we bring projects, and that gives them a little bit of experience, but there's nothing like coming and staying on site and working, you know, in a real environment. So then it's challenging. You need, on the one hand, for the university to agree to give credit for this. You need the workplace to agree to invest their resources, which is not always easy because you need someone, you know how it is, you know, a new employee, you need to work a lot, invest in them. But I agree, I think it is a challenge, and we need more programs that will structure this. Again, if I borrow from my friends in the US, they have something which is called an externship, and we get in IBM in the US many students who come to the summer to IBM as externs, meaning they're still working at the university, but they come and spend 3 months with us to do some joint work or some joint research, and they get the benefit from the university. That means for us, we feel less compelled to, you know, to say, okay, you know, I'm only going to take the top people because I'm paying them, and I have, you know, who to pick from. So that's an idea, you know, this externship, which I don't think we have anything like this in Israel.
Thank you. I got a message that the lunch is getting cold. So I'd like to thank the panelists for this fascinating discussion. Thank you, Judith. Thank you, Avital. Thank you, Aya. Thank you, Eric. And good luck to our Executive Vice President, who is completing a very, very successful 4 years. Thank you, Kobe.